BalconyTV.
Hi there, Internet. It's John Ray with BalconyTV Austin, and this next group's name points to one of their primary messages. It's that culture can't be sensed through a map. Music, however, begins to point to the true territory of human emotion and design hidden within that map. This is Atlas Maior. How you guys doing, guys?
Phenomenal.
What song are we going to hear today?
This is an original composition called $1,000 in 1's.
All right, take it away. Yes. Very nice, guys. Sultry, sensual. I like it. Now, that's a little bit different sound than a lot of the stuff that we see coming through Balcony TV Austin. First, tell me this beautiful thing that you're playing here. What do you call that?
This instrument is called an oud,
Okay.
and it's basically a fretless lute. It's common across the Middle East, and I got this one in Istanbul, Turkey.
Very nice. Now, as you guys are building these songs, it seems like the progression is a little bit different than what we might hear in some of the more common Western music. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, this piece was an original composition, but based on some melodic ideas that are common in the Middle East, the music theory system called the maqam system. And so we kind of built a song around, rather than maybe doing a verse-chorus kind of thing that Western listeners would be used to, based it more around the melodic themes of this particular musical mode. Maybe Josh has something else to add to that, because Josh and I wrote this piece.
Yeah, we are definitely taking from the Middle Eastern maqam system, but also we've integrated some jazz concepts and linear lines that you can see and hear in modern jazz.
Great. Well, it's a very interesting and a very cool sound. Tell me, how did you guys land upon this? What's your background, and what kind of sent you in this direction musically?
Well, I started the group in 2009, and Charlie and I started working in late 2010 together. I grew up hearing a lot of Middle Eastern music. I'm from Detroit originally, and there's a very diverse musical community there with people from the Mediterranean, a lot of soul, a lot of jazz, and a lot of different ideas. And Charlie was studying oud in California. I'll let him talk a little bit about his background.
Yeah, sure. I studied ethnomusicology, which is kind of learning about different music traditions from around the world. One of those was Middle Eastern music, and I sort of fell in love with it when I first heard it and started playing in an orchestra, started playing the oud and just kind of went with it. And what makes the group unique is we all have these different backgrounds. I think it makes any group unique, but there's common ground that we can kind of collaborate on. Teddy has an entirely different background that I'm sure he would like to speak about. Can I have you summarize that, sir?
Sure, yeah. Summarize. Where do I start? Well, when I did come into the group just over a year ago, I came with an Afro-Brazilian background and a jazz background, having studied jazz for several years in Houston. And since I moved here, I actually got into the Brazilian scene. One of my favorite drummers in the entire world is Billy Martin. He was in the Brazilian scene in New York in the 80s. And came up with some really funky stuff. So that was kind of my initial inspiration for studying jazz in college. But since I've moved here and I've been studying more dance, actually, and I teach drums full time, so my whole shtick is that we're here to make people dance. And so what I come with the group with is that angle of making sure it's accessible. And even though it's like all these different kinds of sounds from all over the world, I can still make people dance and have a good time to what we do.
Yeah, that rhythm still moves through people. Now, I think it's really important, particularly at this point in time, to kind of open people up. I think a lot of times we get stuck in this bubble where we're only listening to what's on the radio or what's served to us on TV, and so we create this bubble where we don't realize that there's a whole nother world out there. Tell me a little bit about your name and kind of what that means to you. And you guys were just traveling and on tour kind of all over the place. Tell me a little bit about where you guys were and kind of how the places that you go have been built into some of this music.
Well, we named the group after a 16th century atlas in Europe, and we use that as a way of it's kind of an overarching theme and way that we can classify our music, because we do have a lot of different influences from all over the world. But it's a way for all of us to explore these traditions and also create something that is our own. Most recently, we just got back off of our tour in Istanbul. We were there for several weeks studying with music educators, connecting with local musicians, visiting luthiers. Charlie, this beautiful instrument that he's playing right now, he got that in Istanbul. We had an amazing experience on tour there, and it was really a life-changing event, I think, in many ways, but also creatively, we're still discovering how it's unlocking doors for us, personally, I think.
Tell me a little bit about what I'm holding here and kind of what where this project is headed. I think you guys have a new EP that's coming out in January. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a new record that'll be out in early 2014, January, February. That will be the result of a recording session we did this summer that was all improvised. We brought in some special guests and collaborators from different backgrounds and musical traditions, and just try to do some experimentation and looking at what different sounds can we make, and each session had its own flavor, so we're hoping that the record that comes out of it will reflect that kind of a broad variety of influences and other people, other guests and our friends on the record. What you're holding there is our first LP release. It was released in December 2012, and it's called 4 Shades. It's available now online and elsewhere. And this record was basically, we had done an EP before then, and we had experimented with different ideas. We had been playing together. Josh and I have been playing together as a group for about almost 2 years at that point. And we had a lot of sketches that we were ready to really formalize onto an album, and that's the result of our first real studio work that we did together. You guys want to say anything else about that? Yeah.
I think that this is something that people can dive into more on your website. I'm sure that they can reach out to you and ask any questions. I think that you guys, when you said you're still exploring the doors that this is going to open for you, I'm really excited to kind of watch your progress and see how that works, because I think that it's a really cool idea, for a project, and I love the new sounds and music that you guys are mixing together. So where can people find you online if they want to learn more and kind of follow you into the future?
Yeah, people can find us on Facebook, Atlas Maior, facebook.com/Atlas Maior. It's ATLASMAIOR. We also have a WordPress page, atlasmaior.wordpress.com. We're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. You can search for Atlas Maior. We're on other social media, Twitter, Google+, that kind of stuff. We have a Tumblr page, we have an Instagram page, and actually we did post a lot of stuff from our tour in Istanbul on our Tumblr page and on our Instagram and on our Facebook. So if you want to see any of the things that we did while we were in Turkey and the people we worked with, the music we made, some of the sites we saw, some of the experiences we had, I encourage you to check out our Tumblr page and our Facebook page.
All right, well, there you have it. I'm here with Atlas Maior. I'm John Ray with BalconyTV Austin. Check these guys out on the internet. See what they were up to in Istanbul and where they're going in the future. Guys, thanks so much for being here. That was really great. And thank you, internet, for watching.
BalconyTV.